So some things you're going to need to start off with: watercolor paper, brushes of at least 2 different sizes, one small, one large, and watercolor paint. Some things I also find useful, but you don't absolutely have to have, is a cutting board, an X-Acto knife, painter's tape, and a ruler. And I find these things useful because you can cut down your paper to the size you want it to be and tape the edges so that the paper will not warp while it's drying, because you're going to be applying a couple of layers of watercolor, and you want to get clean, crisp edges as well. And then you're also going to need a pencil or pen to draw your design. And salt can be used to create some texture if you put it on while the watercolor is still wet. So here in this first clip, I'm going to wet my paper completely and then dip my brush back into the cup to get the brush wet again, and then dip into my watercolor and begin to place it onto the paper and let it expand across the page. This is going to dry very diluted because you've applied so much water, and that's kind of what you want here. Your goal is to keep the first layer relatively light, because the negative watercolor painting technique is to paint around the outside of the object, creating contrast between the interior shape and the outer darker edge. So this is going to dry pretty light, and then once it's dried, I'm going to go ahead and draw my design and paint around that with a darker layer. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm using less water on this layer, and I'm painting wet on dry. I'm painting around my I watched letters, and I'm also going to paint around a couple of raindrops. That clip kind of cut early, and I don't know where the rest of the footage went on it, but here I am applying my second layer, and I'm painting around a couple more of the paint drops, and I'm also painting around the second row of words. With each layer that you want to build, you're going to be painting around the same spaces that you've already painted every time, and this is going to help to create some depth. You don't have to be perfect with it, because at the end here you can go in with a darker color. I'm actually using an acrylic to create kind of a more graphic appearance. You can continue to build the watercolor up and get really dark with that, or you can use this technique and give it a more graphic appearance. When you're doing this, you are highlighting the difference in the tones that you've created through your different layers. I'm actually going to go ahead and show you guys also how to create depth using this technique if you were not to put on an opaque layer at the end. So I already have 2 layers down on this, as you can see, and I have used a little bit of positive painting to establish the ear details and the pupil, and I'm going ahead and I'm painting around, I'm on my 3rd layer, and I'm painting around the next section of tentacles. And what this does is pushes them back in space because they are lighter, they're darker, and the ones that have received the least amount of layers are the lightest and appear to come forward. And so you can build this up very darkly and create a lot of depth. I actually go in with another layer after this. So if you are trying to preserve the watercolor kind of appearance, this is a great way to go. And for the last 30 seconds or so, I'm just going to go ahead and play some music for you guys.